Today is June 20th, 1993, and it's Father's Day. Here we are in Gettysburg with Dad visiting for the weekend. And we have, of course, Nancy and Brian and Rebecca here. But Robin's unable to join us because she is not well. In fact, she was taken to the hospital yesterday. But we've been in touch frequently, of course, with Sue and Joe Dixon, who she's living with, and they say that she seems to be all right, but she needs to get some rest, so she won't be joining us today. But I thought it was a nice opportunity to ask Dad to reminisce a little bit about some of his experiences. So I'd kind of like to ask him to perhaps share with us some of his background as I ask some questions about his family and his youth, and some of his employment activities and various things like that. So Dad, I'd like to start off by asking you your parents' names and your grandparents' names.
Okay, my parents' names are Reuben J. Kiehl. My mother's name was Ellen Kiehl, and I had a brother and a sister by the name of Ellen A, and a brother by the name of Daniel G. I lived with my grandparents from the time I was 14 years of age until 17. At that period, my grandparents decided to give up the Army, and I was always interested in doing mechanical work. So as a result, I went to Lancaster looking for a job. Made connections with the typewriter. The typewriter company's name was Standard Typewriter.
Standard typewriter?
Standard Typewriter, yes. And they had a branch in Lancaster at the time, but then I had a chance to transfer from the Lancaster office to Reading office, which was their headquarters.
Well, may I back up a moment?
Yes.
Your mother's name was Ellen Huber, and your father's name was Reuben Getz Kiehl.
Yes.
How about your grandparents? You mentioned that before when we were practicing here.
Yes. Well, my grandfather's name was Emmanuel K. It was Church Street. And my grandmother, her name was Mary Getz Kiehl.
So her maiden name was Getz.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And when I reached the age of 17, my grandparents get out of Army, and I decided to get myself a job during the mechanical as a result.
Well, wait a minute, if you don't mind. Well, how about your grandparent, your maternal grandparents?
Oh yes, my maternal grandparents were Pat Benjamin, H. Huber. My grandmother's name
Okay.
I think.
That's all right, take your time. Move this down a bit too. So your grandmother's name
Oh yes.
is
As far as I can determine, her name is Mary Landis.
Mary Landis, and then her maiden name is Mary Landis.
both grandparents lived in the vicinity of Lincoln and Bedfordton.
Lincoln and Leopard. Lincoln.
Lincoln, yes,
Okay.
and Bedfordton.
Okay. And you say your mother died when you were 14.
Oh yeah, my mother passed away when I was 14 years of age.
Did your father have any brothers or sisters?
Oh yes. My father had one brother by the name of Frank Kiehl, that's Frank's and another brother by the name of Emmanuel.
Any sisters?
Yes. Had two sisters working as part of Kiehl. Married to Raymond Pollard, and the other sister was Barb G. Kiehl. Over the time, married to Clarence Martin.
Harnberger.
It's not built up Oxford. That's
How about your mother? Did she have brothers and sisters?
right. She had one brother, and Mavis. She had one sister. Her name was Schweitzer.
Sadie. Is that it?
Sadie Schweitzer.
And Sadie. Schweitzer or Schweitz?
Schweitzer, S. I guess you could say Schweitzer, S-C-E-I-T-Z-E.
Okay.
During my stay with my grandparents, I had an interesting experience. Being trying to go hunting for game, coach my grandfather, when I was 14 years of age, to take a rabbit hunting, which of course he did. He had a silver musket that loaded up the weight, and of course he had a one shot down. After he had the guns loaded, he directed me to take one field and he'd take another. Unfortunately, I was the one that got the rabbit that day. He didn't get it.
That was your grandfather.
Yeah, grandfather Kiehl.
That was Emmanuel Kiehl.
Emmanuel Kiehl.
You were 14 then.
Yeah, about 14 years of age. From the standpoint of employment, I was employed by Remington Range, which later became Sperry, and now operates under the name of Genesis.
So it was, you started with standard typewriter,
Yeah,
then you went with Dalton,
that's right.
and then with Remington, and then Sperry.
Yeah, that merged with Remington. But I got Dalton just because of the merger of Dalton with Remington.
Uh-huh. Okay. So it was really your interest in mechanical things
Yes.
got you going then in the first place.
And first got my training in writing machines in New York City with the Dalton writing machine company. And later on, I had training
Brian?
in one in Europe.
Could you get the mayonnaise immediately? That goes back in the refrigerator. The mayonnaise do not go in the family room. You don't assemble sandwiches in there on that table near that rock. What would you spot on?
How many other ancestors that, any horse thieves or anything in the family?
Well, not that I can think of.
Any Civil War ancestors that you know of?
Not ancestors, although I did know like several ancestors, Union Army, Caucasians,
Uh-huh. You don't know the origins of the Huber or Kiehl family then. Like the Huber reunion we have here in July, some member of that group has done some genealogical research, I guess. But on the Kiehl side, you don't know when the first immigrants arrived in
No, I
America.
couldn't tell that at all. But I do recall that my great-grandmother's name was Francis.
Your great-grandfather named, that was Emmanuel Kurtz's, Kurtz Kiehl's father.
That was my grandfather.
That was his father. So
Francis Kiehl was his father.
Francis Kiehl.
He came from Mexico, Pennsylvania.
And he was,
lived in cigar factory.
and he was your great-grandfather.
He was my great-grandfather.
Say he operated a cigar factory.
Oh, yes.
Did he own it?
I think so. It was a small operation.
Uh-huh. Where, is he buried there?
Yeah. That's,
That Nashville.
yeah, close to that.
And Emmanuel Kurtz Kiehl, your grandfather, is he buried there at Nashville too? Same thing.
Oh, he was buried in France.
At Brownstown. And
My grandfather was married twice. His first wife died when I was a small child. I never recall seeing her because I was just a little baby at the time. I have that information too, to do my aunts. And my aunt mother was gone. Then, when his first wife died, he married the sister of his first wife.
oh, so Mary Getz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he had a decision to pay her the tree, two of his wives.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And but your so your grandparents, Manuel Kurtz Kiehl and Mary Getz, are both buried in Brownstown.
Yeah, that's right.
And how about your mother and father? Where they buried?
They're very Nashville.
They're in Nessville. That same cemetery as Francis Kiehl. Different cemetery.
This was Francis Kiehl. I haven't seen him. But I understand that they were very small private cemeteries. I never went on to it because I didn't know just how sensitive it was.
comes Rebecca back from her,
Well,
we're on television.
well,
Did you want to come over and say anything
no.
to the video audience? She's hard at work here at Wendy's. Just named Employee of the Month. Her rise within the corporate world.
Here's your chance to get into the movies.
No, thank you. I'm not a movie person.
She's not. Well, maybe you want to come over here and ask your grandfather some questions.
Oh, you do that now?
Ask away, I'll watch.
In a little bit. Okay.
I'm gonna go change this on the floor.
All right. How about some of the famous poetry you're noted for? What got you inspired to poetry?
I had a very good teacher for my 4th and 5th years in school.
Remember the name?
Eddie S.
Eddie Hess.
Eddie, G-T-T-I-E, and then Hess, G-S-S.
Uh-huh.
By the way, I gave the name of Landis. That's Landis Huber, you know, I should mention Huber.
I think I have that. Yeah. Benjamin Huber married Mary Landis,
Yeah,
and they were your maternal grandparents,
that's right.
right?
And they had one son. His name is Landis Huber.
Oh, yes.
That's my
Oh, yes. So I have that. Landis was your mother's brother, and Sadie was your mother's sister. Right. Okay. How about a little poetry? Do you mind reciting a little bit?
Okay.
What's your favorite poem?
Oh, I have quite a few. The Village Blacksmith is one I rather like. Without quotes.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yes. Under a spreading chestnut tree, the village smith stands. The smith, a mighty man is he, with large and silver hands, and the muscles of his brawny arms are strong as iron hands. His hair is crystal, black and long, his face is like the tan. His brow is wet from honest sweat, for he earns one where he can. And looks the whole world in the face, for he owes one every man. Week in, week out, from morn till night, you can hear his bellows blow. You can hear him swing his heavy sledge, with measured beat and slow. And children coming home from school, looking at the open door. They love to see the flaming orange and hear the bellows roar. He goes on Sunday to the church and sits among his boys. He hears the parson pray and preach. He hears his daughter's voice sing in the village choir, and it makes his heart rejoice. It sounds to him like her mother's voice singing in paradise. He needs must think of her once more. How in the grave she lies, with the heart repent he wipes a tear from his eyes. Toiling, rejoicing, sorrowing, onward through the light he goes. Each morning sees the past begun, each evening sees its close. Something attempted, something done, as earth and night's repose. Thanks to thee, my earthly friend, for the lesson thou hast taught. Thus on the flaming forge of light, our fortunes must be wrought. Until the sun and hand will shake, each word of deep and thought. And there's still another poem, says we're approaching fall. Since nothing here might be suitable.
Who wrote the Village Blacksmith, by the way? Longfellow.
I will fix something. The golden run is yellow, the Florida is turning brown, and the trees and apple orchards, they have proven nothing better. The judges threw us fringes, the curling in the sun, and justifies death, and hidden self-respect. The judges threw us fringes, curling in the sun, and dancers by the roadside, their dancers and the dewy lazy morning that takes 3 rows of eyes and renewed the Lord's hour coming within the eyes. And with all these lonely tokens, September days are here. Summer's best of weather, but autumn's best of cheer.
Summer's best of weather, but autumn's best of cheer.
And with all these lonely tokens, September days are here. Summer's best of weather, autumn's best of cheer.
Well, appreciate those. Now, who was in September by?
I think that was William Cody Brown. I'm not absolutely sure. It sounds like this one.
Okay. How about you spent a bit of time in politics?
Oh, yes.
And how about borough council? When were you first elected to borough council? Remember the year?
I got to go back over some of my records.
And how many years on borough
And
council?
I have served 12 years.
12 years.
Council.
And how many years as president?
And 8 of those years were president of the council.
And then,
During that tenure in office, we moved from a one-room setup to a building with 2 floors, and 5 or 6 rooms. It was a former schoolhouse which we renovated.
yeah, I went to junior high there.
Yeah,
And you had your name on the plaque as it was dedicated, Irvin K. Kiehl.
never corrected me. Didn't have it.
Well, you were quoted by the newspaper in that article as saying you didn't want to make a federal case of it.
You must have done that.
Yeah.
I'd appreciate a lot of compliment or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll try to find that. Now, you work for Standard Typewriter, then B. Dalton Company.
Well, first of all, to start off, after I left my great parents, I left farming. I got a job at the Standard Typewriter Company at Reading. Well, I worked at the register office for a few weeks before I was transferred to I worked for them for almost a year. Then they took on the agency for the Dalton Ammunition Company. And that company was starting to make a complete new line of machines. So I made an application for a job there. Incidentally, I was able to do that with it. And started working for them. Typewriter. And because of my tender age, which was only 17 at the time, I made myself like a little older. And finally got the job. They were reluctant to send me to school because of my age.
Yeah.
However, I went to New York City, spent 4.5 months there to study alignment machines that they had at the time. Well, new machines from Vietnamese version. Anyways, I was basically ready for almost a year. Then we decided to combine the Allentown and the Ready police stations. I was ready. The man that was Ready, Allentown, he was married. So then there was just a short haul to get him over to Ready. I was transferred to Baltimore. I was down there in Baltimore for, I believe, 6 months. And my original boss, he was ready to press, and I transferred back to Ready. Got a lot to do. So, I got myself back to Ready. I was ready for 6-7 years. Oh, my phone. For 8 years. Then I got a job over at York as a combination agent. In other words, having both service and sales. Then the merger came along with Remington and Quantum Energy. So I had my choice of going into the sales department full time or into the mechanical. Well, the mechanical end at that time was a short end. The salesman was sort of sketchy because we were working on commission. Especially as a good idea in this case. Oh yes, I skipped it there. I was back into that big trouble. In 1925, I transferred from mechanical into sales. I got my training in sales out of Cincinnati. Then we went back to Reading, and I had a reasonable degree of success. I was probably a pro because of my territory. However, 1925 started to come along. Oh, we did some days ago. See, that was a good territory because the storekeepers up there stayed at home and the biggest things. But that's the thing that I just told them. I guess if they had to give up, they have to pay. I was a straight commission at that time. I sold very long machines and the striker stick. So that's how I got up to get the combination job with York. So I was over at York. Combination with the sales head service. Then when the merger came along, I Remington Bank, as well as the typewriters, lots of little machine, safe kind of typewriters, all the generators about every night was little companies, all mixed together. So that's how I became serviceman 3 times. I started last year.
When did you move to Harrisburg as serviceman?
1929.
Why not? And when did you retire? Was it 67? 1967?
Yeah, that was
So it's 38 years as service manager at, in Harrisburg.
Yeah. 46 years of service coming along.
How much you service? 46?
46. It's running, not
Right.
running the typewriter,
Yeah.
the adding machine is.
And then you went to work for the state of Pennsylvania.
Well, then, when the retirement came along, I didn't feel like working all the time. So, of course, I had good connections, and I could get into the state. So I got myself a job in the state. I had worked up with the towns, auditor, Department of Welfare.
Auditor for the Department of Welfare. And about the same time you were serving as Justice of the Peace, weren't you?
Oh, yes.
How long did you have that?
Oh, I had that 2 years or so. But then came along with District Justice Center.
So they phased out the Justice of the Peace.
Justice Center. District.
Now then, how about somewhere along the line you met someone by the name of Ruth Elizabeth Rebecca Beatty?
Oh,
Where did you meet?
well, it so happened that I was single on 40, 912, 912 North 18th Street, Harrisburg. And she was very across the alley. She was some awesome. I got through my landlady and her landlady.
Uh-huh. And when was that? Do you remember the year? But you were married in 1934. June 10th, 1934. And then,
And of course, that union was blessed with 2 sons.
Irvin Emanuel, born on November 9th, 1936. And Robert Allen on May 12th, 1938.
And this son.
What?
Didn't send you a card, did I?
Oh, well, that's all right. I'm not worried about that anymore. Now then, how about your residences? You lived on 18th Street in Harrisburg, and you met your mother there. And then where was your first,
Then
you got
we set up housekeeping. We got an apartment on 17th Street.
apartment on 17th Street in Harrisburg?
Lived there, I was close up to a year or something like that.
Uh-huh.
In order to go to Rome. So, we got a really nice little Rodney Street. I forget the one well. It was over called 3rd Rodney Street.
Uh-huh. How long were you there?
Oh, we were there for I guess it was a year or so. And
And that's where Anna Mae lived with you for a while.
yeah. Well, in fact, she started living with us for the time we were married. She
Yeah.
lived with us on 18th Street. Also on Mounder Street. And she became interested in church life and Trinity. So we got to know Dr. Litz. I
Mhm.
don't know if you remember him.
I remember the name,
But anyways, he was
Dr. Lutz.
the one who was instrumental in building us such a new company.
Uh-huh. And that's when you moved to, from Lowther Street down to Fifth Street.
Yeah,
What was the address of Fifth Street?
322 Fifth,
And how long were you there?
till 1936.
So you moved there,
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we moved, came into New Cumberland with the block, the 36 block, 1936.
so you moved to Fifth Street in 1936. And then you moved to Reno Street in,
About 39.
1939. Okay. And how about anything significant you remember about any of your anniversaries?
Oh, yeah. Well, we celebrated our 50th anniversary with kids and kids.
Yep, I remember that well. I also remember that's why I wrote down here in the list, I remember your 34th wedding anniversary. Do you think you can remember where you were on your 34th wedding anniversary?
We were over at 34.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we were over in England.
Yep, you were visiting in England, and we took a grand tour of the continent.
That's right.
And we were, on your actual anniversary date, we were in the French Jura Mountains. We were in France on your
I
30th.
remember that.
We had a magnificent dinner at this beautiful hotel up in the mountains there on the way to Switzerland.
And those freshmen couldn't speak any English. Remember that?
Yep.
Although we got by.
Do you remember checking out of the hotel the next morning?
Yeah, I remember that quite well.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, it started off when we were way up through to Switzerland. And as we came close to the Swiss border, it was late in the afternoon, and we noticed a hotel over the lakeside. It seemed to be in very nice condition, although it was older than a hotel. So we went in there and checked on that. We got 2 separate rooms. I forget what we paid.
About $10 a night for each room.
And we had to use the bathroom facilities out in the hallway. However, everything was spick and span. And it seemed to me that hotel operation was meant to run, that's what the way it appeared to me. But they couldn't speak any English, not neither could we speak any French. But the next morning, we went down to the dining room, got it coming out of breakfast down there. And noticed the fellows at the table next to us speaking German, you know. I figured that there would be somebody that could speak French. Spoke to them, got to talking to them, I spoke French. The night myself. No, I'm not word for word, but I asked if they would pay enough to help me out there and some time. Oh, man. Every day we tried Mercedes. So they must have been pretty top-notch people.
Well, I think everybody in Germany must have a Mercedes.
Well, I don't think the too many of them working for us. It seemed to be more or less
Businessman.
businessmen. So we got out of the room there for the night. What was it?
So we went to check out, as I remember, we went English to German. One of those German men could speak English, one could speak French. So we went English to German, German to German, German to French. And everybody had a hell of a good time.
Sure, that was just a little pleasant experience.
Yeah. So that was a memorable event there. Remember any other events on that trip that bring back some
Well,
memories?
yes, we met those people from Switzerland that went vacationing up there. What was the name of the town? A hotel by the side of the road. We got such good service and reasonable prices.
I remember that. I don't remember the people.
$8 a night
Yeah,
per couple.
yeah. See, there was a gift shop along that road,
Yeah.
and so we had to stop. Of course, we couldn't pass the gift shop, and so as you and Nancy and Mother were shopping there,
That's very popular, the first music box.
that was the first music box there. Oh. No, I think maybe first music box was in Montreux, in the village. Because remember, we stopped at the League of Nations in Geneva, and we still hadn't discovered any music boxes, which was really what Mother was looking for. And so then we drove up along the lake, Geneva, to the village of Montreux, and that's when I pulled in the parking lot, and three of you took off while I just kind of rested in the car, and then you came back. You had discovered one, Mother had discovered another, and I think Nancy may have even had another one. But then from there we went on down the other side of the lake, and that's when we encountered that gift shop alongside the road, and of course stopped there. It was getting towards evening, and so I was starting to worry about a place to stay. And while you guys were shopping there at the gift shop, I walked across the road there to that hotel, which looked quite nice and also looked very expensive. When I went in there by myself while you were over there shopping, and I inquired about rooms, I thought, well, it doesn't hurt to ask. And we found out that the rooms were about $8 a night. And I said, I was using my cost comparison, Swiss francs, and I said, well, how much is that in dollars? And she said, that's $8. And I said, well, how much is that per person? She says, no, that's $8 per room. And I said, oh, well, how about, do you have one overlooking the lake? She says, yes, they're overlooking the lake. I said, in the new section there's a new section of the hotel. She says, yes, it's in a new section. And I couldn't believe our good fortune in getting a room at that rate. So I said, well, we'll take 2 rooms. I didn't even hesitate. But I trotted back across the road then, to where you guys are still at the gift shop, of course. And I thought I'd try to play a fast one on you a little bit. And so I said in front of Mother, and then I asked you, I said, what do you think about, we need to start thinking about a place to stay for tonight. And I said, what do you think of that place right there? And it looked very expensive, of course. And I said, I've already booked 2 rooms. So I was just trying to get your reaction, of course. And I don't know if you remember that part.
No, I don't remember that part.
Well, I was just trying to make you think that I'd booked us for 2 very expensive rooms there. But they turned out to be about $8 a night. And so that turned out to be one of our nicest stops, not just because of the price, but because, if you remember also...
Oh, the service center.
Yeah, do you remember the waiter?
Oh, sure.
And do you remember what you gave the waiter?
Exactly. Percy Sachs was one that was responsible for that. He wasn't along but before we left on the trip, Percy and I were out together someplace. But we got to talk about this. So he said, whatever you do, he said, those Europeans over there are crazy and Canada have dollars. So he said, take a good supply of $10,000. Well, I thought here I'd get his head rid of $10,000. Well, I thought he was going to kiss me for that. And if you remember, we went around and all of us listened hard-hearted, shook hands.
Yeah.
Thanked us.
Yeah, almost brought tears to his eye. Yeah, that was Yeah, I don't know if the camera is picking up your voice too well, so I'll mention that again. But it was Percy Sachs that you got the tip from to take Kennedy $50 over to Europe on your trip, because the Europeans were especially appreciative of Kennedy $50.
I'll tell you another place that was very appreciative. Same thing. That was a hotel Warner over there in London. We had breakfast and we had a ham and egg breakfast or something. I think it was ham. They don't fool around and come and have breakfast over there.
That's right. And real.
Yeah. So, I was such a one of these $10.5 over the plate. Baker she was broken heads and 49 pictures. Anyway, she noticed that I was $10.5. Well, she's trying to do that.
I don't remember that one. The woman at the waitress at the Warwick Hotel in London, you put Kennedy half under the plate, and she was very, very appreciative of that. Yeah.
That's what Mother thought she lost a pair of shoes.
I remember that. We went and found the pair of shoes, the missing pair of shoes.
We found it later on. After we checked with the opposite at the having the luggage checked all of the price and all that sort of stuff. Never lost it all.
Yeah. Well, do you remember anything else about the trip, like any car trouble that we may have had?
Oh, yeah. I remember that back then.
We had, what had happened was we found out that Mom and Dad had agreed to come over to visit us at the end of our tour in England the first time we were there from 1966 to 68. And so they arrived in June of 1968. And as it happens, we had, I guess by that time, sold our Volkswagen, and we had a Spitfire, Triumph Spitfire, sports car. Well, that wasn't.
Yeah, you had, I guess it's good.
That wasn't quite the car that would accommodate us traveling on the continent too well, and so we were faced with renting a car, which was a very good possibility, of course. Or, as it happens, a friend of mine at the base was leaving in June to come back to the States, and he was selling his Corvair, 1966 Corvair. So he sold that car to us for $1,200, as I remember.
Oh, that's a reasonable price.
Well, as it happens, by the end of the summer, when we were getting ready to come back, August of '68, September actually, we went to ship the car, and they were having one of their many dock strikes at the time. So we didn't want to go through the hassle, and we ended up selling the Corvair ourselves at the end of the summer to another American on base for $1,100. So that car cost us $100. And we were able to travel all over the continent. We put well over 3,000 miles in that car. But I'm jumping ahead of the story because we took the Corvair then down to London and met Mom and Dad there at the airport. Actually, I guess that first time you were over, you did fly into Heathrow. And so we...
Both times.
Well, you flew into Manchester
You're right, Manchester.
the second time. That was later. That was the second time we went over.
Heathrow, both places I think were wrong.
Yeah. We arrived at Heathrow in June of '68. We met there and had a couple of days in London. I think it was the Cumberland Hotel, actually. But then we set off for Paris, across the continent, or across the Channel, and I don't remember how we crossed that time. Was that by ship or hovercraft? That was probably by ship at that time.
Oh yeah, we went by ship.
I think it was hovercraft.
I remember we had a French, there was a French ship. French was a chart.
Well, we crossed over and drove down to Paris, and remember driving around the Arc de Triomphe.
Oh yes. That was a wild drive.
That was French sport, driving around that.
Well, I'll be happy to get out of that mess.
But from Paris then, we had 3 nights, I guess, in Paris, and we thought we were going to go broke after those 3 nights because it was very expensive in Paris. And that's when we headed then for down to Switzerland. That's again where we stopped then on the 34th wedding anniversary. And then went on to Geneva. And then, of course, we've already mentioned that story. But then we subsequently went to Austria. And that's when we experienced the problems with the fan belt. Now, do you remember that?
Oh, yes. I helped out as they found. We were, the place were good to us to have a spare fan belt.
Well, that's because Corvairs had evidently were known for their problems with the fan belts. But we did have a spare fan belt. That was the only spare part we had in the car.
Well, they had only known at the time. I think the big captain truck garage and had the man did it to the original fan belt. We did it to the second. We never had to use the second.
Yeah.
In other words, there was too much braking. I don't know. So that's the reason I jumped off the track.
So the fan belt was getting close to breaking. And as we proceeded, and we were trying to make it to Berchtesgaden in Germany, where a U.S. facility perhaps would have been able to help us out, we thought, because it was a U.S. automobile, American automobile. But we didn't make it that far. As we were driving along in Austria, and we stopped in this one village, far about a hotel, and the only thing that was available was up several flights of steps, no elevator, and it was also not very pleasant room, so we declined that and decided to press on to try to make it to Innsbruck. We didn't quite make it as far as Innsbruck when the fan belt finally broke. And you remember that being dark? It was also dark by that time.
Well, they was looking for the flashlight.
Yeah, that's a famous story of looking for the flashlight because we needed the flashlight. Dad, we had the spare part, the fan belt. Dad knew how to install it. We had the tools to do that, but we had to be able to see, and so we needed the flashlight. And I rather remembered putting the flashlight on the shelf in the back of the back seat. But we were so loaded down with luggage and various items, sundry items and that sort of thing, that Mother and Nancy looked for the flashlight on the shelf, didn't see it. So we thought, well, it must be in the trunk. So we proceeded to open the trunk, and that was just jam-packed, and so we had to unpack the trunk, find the flashlight. Of course, we're looking for the flashlight in the dark. Well, as we start to unload the trunk and so forth, we got about quite a bit of stuff out onto the road. And I thought to myself, I said, I'm sure that flashlight is back in that shelf. So I thought, well, they're unloading that. I'll go back and look back again on the shelf. So I looked under some scarves and that sort of thing, and son of a gun, I found the flashlight. So I came back with the flashlight, and I shined it into the trunk as Mother was unloading some things. I said, here, does that help? And she says, oh, that's much better. And she continued to unload. So we'll continue here in a few moments.
Excuse me, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Okay, that's all right.
You say you got to?
No, I said that's all right.
Okay. Like your chat with the Cambridge the other night.
Oh, yes.
You know, he's beginning to show his age. And I thought he was older.
Yeah, he said he's 87, almost 88. Brother Bill Gingrich, former secretary of the West Shore Lodge number 681.
Well, he had it for many years.
Yeah, about 30-some years, I think. Well, I think we were talking about our fan belt
Oh, yes.
problem. While we were in Austria, I think actually, I'm not sure, but I believe the village we stopped in first was Feldkirch, and then decided we didn't like that room, and we'll try to make it to Innsbruck. and we didn't get quite that far because the fan belt finally broke. It was dark. We had to try to put the fan belt, Dad knows how to do that, put the fan belt on, but it was in the dark, we needed a flashlight. So I've already mentioned that, but then I finally found the flashlight on the shelf, came up there and shined it into the trunk as Mother was continuing to unpack, and I said, does this help? She said, oh, that's much better, as she continued getting the pieces out of the trunk. So we used to tease her about that a lot, and she enjoyed it.
She was looking for the flashlight.
Yep, she enjoyed that story. It was one of her favorite stories for her grandchildren. Now the kids are growing up a little bit. But then we finally got the fan belt on, but it wasn't tightened, and you had no tool to really tighten it, and so we didn't want to go too far. Looked at the map and saw there's a village called Imst, I-M-S-T, just down the road. So we looked into Imst, asked if there was a hotel, and they directed us to this hotel, Imst Hotel Post. And that turned out to be a beautiful hotel. Beautiful hotel.
I imagine that could have been a delightful place to stay on a hot summer's day. Go down into a beer garden.
Yep.
And a nice beer garden.
And a lovely beer garden. We did enjoy that next day then.
But you know, they didn't get that fixed then until the next day.
Right.
Remember, we got to a small, I guess, just barely a village, but there was a garage there.
Yeah.
And we stopped there and came up with another pleasant experience. What I explained to the man what it was, or he knew right away stories on the mountains.
Yeah.
He went to work with me, and I watched him. And I know the two things that I accept. Get the right amount of tension on the belt. See, we use belts on a lot of lines, not just like right. It's the same thing. That's girls out over there. Some girls can have an opposite. So you gotta have the right tension in this, and so you're slipping. Girls have traffic. So he went to work. Another thing, we had the right benches, do that. Here, next to the chapel. Nothing to it. Asked him how much. What he asked for was incredibly 40 cents.
About 40 cents it took, yeah. An Austrian shilling, yeah.
Another thing, remember when we drove into that place, how it came across from another house, we had a bridge with potatoes in it. Did you notice
I
that?
didn't remember that.
Yeah, I just figured he was nearly ready for a mood meeting.
Nancy,
What?
can you come here a moment? Remember our stop in Imst and had the next morning had the fan belt fixed? And in the garage, and Dad was mentioning about this man also came across with potatoes on a plate for his noonday meal ready. You remember that?
No.
I guess the point I'm making is that my dad here says he's getting up in years. He's 90 years old. He remembers more than I do at 55.
Good.
No.
So we're not sure which one of us is getting up in years here. Yep.
You remember another thing, on the trip up through Swissburg, we ran into a truck stop. Remember that place?
Truck stop. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a hotel that served meals.
Uh-huh.
And of course, we had tables along the aisle just like the Americans. And the mostly truckers that few other parked on the outside of the whole thing. Also a tiny house. Back here, look like truck drivers. They had a good substantial, there's nothing extraordinary. I think it was beef and potatoes and everything.
Yeah, it's a staple in Germany and Austria and Switzerland, I guess, beef and potatoes. Okay, all right, let's ask about, change the subject a little bit here. Those were some special memories from that trip in Europe. We really had some good times there. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot another one. Went up through Belgium, and we were looking for some specific items in Belgium. Mother had,
Fishing.
yeah.
I had one.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't know what we did with ours. We had one, but we didn't seem to.
Those things disappear without a
Yeah. But then we went back to, cross back over into England. Actually, I guess we went across the North Sea there
Yeah.
to go back because we went from Rotterdam, I think.
Yeah, that's Rotterdam. Remember the policeman that asked for directions when they first hit Oxford, they put this pinpointing themselves?
Yeah.
Because you remember that? Traffic policeman. And again, I talked to him, especially Dutch man. He understood what I wanted. And he stopped traffic, told us to turn around, draw a certain distance so down the left side. But he was very accommodating.
Yeah.
He stopped everything for us.
But then we crossed, that was an overnight on board ship, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So then we crossed back into England, and then we really gave you a chance to see England outside of London, because when you arrived, we greeted you in London, spent a couple days, but then we left for the continent. So this was now the first time to truly explore the English countryside with you. And so we enjoyed visiting, of course, many pubs up in Yorkshire,
Oh, yeah, sure.
and of course our home in Harrogate. And I don't remember anything.
I used to get that good down that pub, just about a mile down the pike. Between your place and Harrogate. Was a right inside.
Well,
Bunch of retirees were coming in the morning. This back 7 Then there was one more. I guess some logs in their time and they were home.
well, also I forgot that when we were moving back over to the continent here for a minute, because I forgot when we stopped at Berchtesgaden, that's where Mother purchased her first Hummel figurine, wasn't it?
I believe so.
There at PX, I believe. But also, you discovered a pub down the way from the hotel, and we left you. We shouldn't have left you alone, because we went on back to the hotel, and you came back a little bit later, and you were kind of happy.
That was a delightful experience. And the arrangement of the pub was this. It was sort of a long room, and they had tables about as long as from door to the wall on both sides, about a mile down through the center. And as a result, we'd sit at a table with some of the neighbors or other customers. And I know I got to talk to them. I could understand what they were talking about. I said to them, you still need to. And I said, talk to them. I said, listen, you have to getting ready.
Well then, getting back to, we had a nice tour around England and visited several spots there. Went up to Scotland, I think, didn't we? And then, of course, you came back to visit over there when we were back second time around, some years later. We were there from 79 until 83, and you came back over to visit there with, and brought Bobby along that time. That was a lot of fun.
I still kick Bobby off.
Yeah, 'cause he was 9 years. Yeah.
That was house, he touched it.
Yeah.
I didn't really put his eyes so hard. You got a kick out of that.
Is that what you said? Jiminy Cricket's Maestro Friday.
Yeah.
Well,
I was helping hook the customer.
he was about 9 years old.
I was, ready a little over. He was with a skateboard touches. We took him along over there to Wales. And ran across a skateboard court, whatever you call it. One of those fellows skateboarding about their night's business. And they sold skateboards. And one we thought we ought to have one at all. And I said, what's the use of doing that? I said, we can definitely do that from that's all. You take a skateboard, it's not too big a judge.
Well, yeah, with all the other luggage, it would have been a bit much to work that. But I think Bobby thoroughly enjoyed himself on that trip with his grandparents. Well, I know he did. Okay, well, getting back here, Dad, let's see.
Yeah, another place we went to for supper one time. Remember we were going up through Barbados Street. And we looked across to the mountain on the other side. And it was, gee, very steep going up. Remember you almost had a back behind you.
Yeah.
Just drive into the place.
Yeah.
Sharp turn.
Yeah, I can't remember where that was. But of course,
I was a little bit on that time as well too.
yeah.
That was, not too much behind. Steep place. Didn't have very nice. Very cheap.
Well, we took you up to the Eagle's Nest too. That was kind of scary, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I was really enjoying that.
Going up that elevator that Hitler used.
Yeah, that was a big help. He must have anticipated a lot of company.
Well, moving back over here to, wanted to ask you about some of your affiliations now, churches. What church were you a member of when you were a lad?
When I was young.
Yeah.
Well, the ones that I read at Royal Church. Over at
Runnerville.
Rutherville, Pennsylvania.
United Brethren.
I was like,
Oh, so you weren't introduced to the United Brethren by Mother's father then?
oh, no.
So that's a coincidence, and you were introduced by your landladies. You were both United Brethren.
What did you say about that?
I say it's a coincidence that you were introduced later by your landladies, you and Mother,
Oh,
and you were both United Brethren.
This turned out because there was a new church in Toronto place.
And then you, of course, joined the EUB church down in Trinity. Trinity UB. Reverend Lutz was the minister. Now, who married you? Your father-in-law?
Father.
Reverend Beatty? William Beatty. How about now Mother's side? Her father's name was William Beatty?
William M. Beatty.
M, that's right. From Metz?
That's
And Her mother's name? Carrie Kleingens? Her maiden name? K-L-E-I-N?
I don't know if it's K-L-I-N-E or K-L-E-N. I believe it's K-L-I-N-E. The E last.
Okay. And now he remarried after she died. He married Ruby.
Yeah, really, that's all I know.
Yeah. And do you happen to know, I guess you wouldn't have met her grandparents.
Oh, no, I never
And how about now her brothers and sisters were Helen,
Mildred.
Mildred and Anna Mae were sisters,
Alright.
and brothers were Gilbert,
Gilbert, John,
Herbert is one of them, yeah, John and Herbert, Gilbert, Earl and Harold.
How many sisters do you have?
Well, there were 3 sisters, there were 4 girls altogether. Mother, Helen, Mildred, and Anna Mae.
Yeah, you get the brothers and the Henry.
No, of course, these were her sisters and brothers. And how about any favorite memories about Greencastle?
Yeah. We went over there one Sunday, which we did from time to time, to visit Dog Charlie. And this was on a hot summer's day. After Charles went here to their shots. He said, they said to take a ride down as children. Their child's maybe north and south, which we did. On the way coming back, I was thunderstorms with real heavy clouds. It's could be. So excellent. I went back on the last year to not stop it. I went to the picture of those clouds. Set back. So after a few stop shots, then we continued on into Greencastle. When we got into Greencastle, we read about 3 minutes. Fire lines. Our child was actually
Yeah.
so he might as well see where the fire is. We got out there with the fire. I'm not so sure that we would have made it. But anyways, we got there in time. The planes were coming through the front. I got left by the firefighter distance. I caught a graphic distance, so 2 shots. So I took a shot. I was behind the flames, shooting out the front. Then later on, took another shot. But really on fire. And so on until the fire heard the mine got to the ground. So, and there was a color too. And I told you I had to help you out next time I came over and showed to the fire. Boy, they thought that was mixed up. Everything was just in sequence.
Yeah.
Everything that was left after the last picture was some of the iron lights up the couch. Things like that. Then outside on the wall.
Okay, let's see what else here. How about the Odd Fellows? When did you get associated with the Odd Fellows?
About 1943.
And you're still a member?
Still not,
50 years then?
yeah, I have about two.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
When did you get that?
Oh, sometime. Last year, that's right. Incidentally, it was $500 laying on that passing.
So the Odd Fellows. Yeah. That's where you joined.
Well, that's where we wound up. Years ago, we went down to the Odd Fellows, good number of kind of membership there. Which is remarkable. As time went on, we just didn't get, probably didn't have any church. So that's why we didn't get new members. Well, I have a little whole thing. I've got us down at that area, so I can say this because they came around and noticed the house first. Then I did this and that, and then we got up to the bonus in the house. My brother said, I didn't pretty much the watch.
Well, it is.
Well, you see, here's what God just has a rule. 300 small towns. The big towns have
Yeah.
smaller towns are exactly seem to hold on thing.
And how about when were you made a master mason?
That was about 30 years ago. Again, I've had to refer to
Well, you waited until I finished school, as I remember. I didn't know that at the time. But Mother told me that later. Mother told me later that you waited to join the lodge until I finished school.
Well, I look back over it, I wish I could have done it early. But naturally, I didn't have the money to just throw away or something.
Well, see, we were talking about that today at lunchtime, not the lodge so much as what we were raised with in terms of things we used to eat. And I said, I'll always remember eating mustard and mayonnaise sandwiches. Mustard on one slice of bread and mayonnaise on another. And I used to think that everybody had mustard and mayonnaise sandwiches. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I didn't know it was that dire.
Huh?
I didn't know that the need was that dire.
Well, I'm not sure if it was a dire need or not, but that's what and then I knew that you didn't join the Masons until after I was through school, and then I also remember some of the playground stuff we had out back.
Oh, yeah. You at Larry High School shooting up fireworks.
Oh, well, that was out at the Memorial Field, yeah. You remember us shooting off those fireworks?
Sorry, I'm sure we got them. Let's walk around there. That way we can read the same something not even looking for it.
Yeah, I was accosted by the wall. We were caught setting off firecrackers, and Charlie Hampshire chased us. And we could have outrun him, I suppose, but because he was the law, I thought it was my obligation to stop. And so I was apprehended. But getting back to the Masonic then, you became a Master Mason probably 62 maybe. 61 or 62.
Yeah, so is it.
Because it was before me,
Oh, yeah, sure.
and I was raised in 63. May of 63. And then you became a member of the Scottish Rite in the Zembo Temple also. And then you subsequently joined the Zembo Luncheon Club. You used to go to a luncheon club
That's right.
once a week.
Luncheon club, Cumberland County Shrine.
And the Cumberland County Shrine Club.
I like both those shrines. Still, I have a sister in the shrine.
Okay, and then wanted to ask you about your pets. Remember any pets?
Pets.
Yeah. Did you have any pets when you were a youngster?
Oh, not that I can no more farm animals. Never really pets. Get to sort of get to know them. They get to know you too.
Well, did you have your own horse that you rode to school?
Yeah. Well, my
Grandfather's horse. And how old were you when you had to drop out of school?
I was 13, 14.
13 or 14. Was that when your mother died? So you had to drop out then to help on the farm. But getting back to pets then, I remember one in particular that we will remember ourselves. You know who that is?
What kind of dog?
Yeah,
What was it, Chapman or
Penny.
what was the horse name?
Oh, I don't remember who gave us.
Yeah, you folks get down very triumphant.
Oh, just a minute.
In the dog house of two dogs.
What's the matter, Brian? Okay, we're back on again here, Dad. But there was another pet that I was thinking of that you had just not too many years ago now. We were leaving for England.
Yeah, sure.
That's
Go
right.
ahead and speak of it all. Yes, I'm sure that she got the car
Yeah. Well, she was getting, I guess, pretty fairly old dog years, wasn't she?
Yeah, I believe so. So, the trouble was, she couldn't go up any steps. She was struggling for that.
Yeah. Well, the part that I like, that I'll always remember, is that we had acquired Penny there from a family at Fort Meade that were expecting another child, and they just couldn't continue to have a pet as well. So they wouldn't even take very much money for her because they didn't think it was right to sell her for a lot of money. But she had papers as a Cocker Spaniel, purebred.
Oh, yes,
But then shortly after we got Penny ourselves, we found out we had another opportunity to go overseas. And so we couldn't take a pet to England unless we put the pet in quarantine for 6 months, and we didn't want to do that. So we had not yet actually grown as attached to Penny yet as what we could have if we had had her longer, of course. And so I thought, well, gee, my dad, I think, might really enjoy a pet, but I don't know whether Mother would be too fond of having a pet.
Oh, she did.
But then I approached Mother and I talked to her about it, and she agreed to take her, and you agreed to take her, and before long, I think Mother spoiled Penny as much as anybody did. I think she really got along.
Oh, yeah, she
She really liked Penny a lot.
sort of not.
And she became a faithful companion for you.
I wouldn't mind if I had a dog myself. I like, I like to, 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 I I don't have the facilities to take care of it. I would take a dog now if somebody would give me.
Well, how about Charlie and
Oh,
Desiree?
Charlie might get a lot older. Yeah, he comes up 6 or 7 minutes.
How about Biscuit? Where's Biscuit? Biscuit! There she is. She's right here. You want to call her up there? Get her up in your lap?
That's all.
Okay. Anyhow, Biscuit here has been an ideal pet, haven't you? Okay, well, I think I was probably, I was going to ask you a bit about some of the special items in the family. You know, the marble top table back here, of course. And that was your grandmother's?
My grandparents.
On your mother's side. And the musket was your grandfather's on your father's side. Maternal grandfather. Okay, Biscuit. Yeah, maternal grandfather.
Yeah, that's right.
And how about the pocket watch?
That belonged to my grandfather
Which one?
on my father's side.
Maternal grandfather. And the pocket watch that they gave her.
That was my pocket watch.
That's
I
right.
got that on my 14th birthday. Both those watches all been taken from the watchmaker. Wait, what? Of course, when it comes to mechanical watches, they aren't much good. For years, watchmakers were struggling to make mechanical watches keep looking down. They come closer, they weren't as reliable as the electric watch. For that reason, I read this electric watch.
Timex?
Timeless,
Yeah.
get them from about 22 versus
That's what I have here too.
and if anything happens so that they need accessory repairs, I would not move because the watchmaker will charge you about as much as the new watch costs.
Yeah. That's true. Now the antique chest that gave her, that was your maternal
So
grandparents. And the plank bottom chairs.
they were from my maternal grandparents.
How about one final category here? I was going to ask about, do you remember any good times and hard times that really come to mind?
Oh, I guess when all said and done, my life was normal. It was more than $200. I made. Of course, I'm glad I couldn't consider hard times. Hard times at the time.
You didn't consider hard times at the time. That reminds me of another person I admired a great deal was Dwight David Eisenhower. He was quoted one time as saying that his family was poor, although he never knew it at the time. It's because he had such a good family life, and he didn't know that they were poor. And it was only after people would later point that out to him looking back at his childhood. So to him, in other words, he wasn't poor at all.
So
So,
we had pretty tough. I mean, when I was
but you didn't see it as necessarily hard times.
no, I didn't feel that I was so tough. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, but you didn't think that at the time, did you?
No,
You had a nice family upbringing. It's kind of like me, you see, I had the same thing, didn't I?
yeah.
I didn't remember any tough times, except one, the toughest time that I remember is when the rag man came and took my bunny rabbit.
Wasn't that a shame?
That was the hardest part of my life. I can't complain about too much, can I?
Well, I'll tell you, I think about the toughest period I had in my life was when I got my job at the typewriter company in Brighton. I took that job for $6 a week. Of course, I was run up to so, of course, I saved some money to tide me over, but I could go to that store. And then when I went to school for the golf company, I got $18 a week for the first month. Right, the first month over. We went to 8 times a credit.
$18 a month. Or a week.
A week. But it was our city, I lived in York, years.
That was 1925,
Oh, right.
1920. $18 a week in New York City. I was living, you were living at the YWCA or YMCA,
Was I?
weren't you?
No, not New York. But I was living in Albany. I stayed in YMCA down there. And also when I lived in Reading. Of course, before I got to YMCA in Reading, I got to go through the old maze.
What?
Washington State. Very nice house there. Very pleasant. No problems.
Well, do you have anything you'd like to say in conclusion here for the...
Oh, nothing is really special.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to let me reminisce a little bit with my father on Father's Day, 1993. So I'm a sentimentalist, and I like to...
I have too many of those at the table.
You never know.
Well, you never can tell. I was very much surprised to meet people down there in the center. There's one lady when I came into the center, and we got to talk to her, asked her how old she was. She told me she was 96 at that time. I thought she was kidding me. She passed away just a few weeks ago. And that was Charlie Anderson. I think we did him. We did leave him that night.
I think so, yeah.
Maybe an acknowledgement or something. He died a few years ago. He was 96.
Well, as you say, we're all traveling down the same road. Well, Dad, I appreciate the time here. And I think I'm gonna turn off the camera now.
Okay,
All
well,
right?
let me take a look at this, let me see what happens.